Hello, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Dom.
And welcome to the Passback Podcast.
The Passback Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to the inaugural, the first. I'm trying to think of any other words for first. The premiere. That's it. The premiere of our podcast, the Passback Podcast, for all your FPL needs. Are you excited, Dom?
I'm excited. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, same here. It's good, isn't it? I've been wanting to make a podcast for a little while, and well, this is it. Opportunity to be able to do it. It seems like a good a time as any, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. So a little bit about ourselves. If you've listened to our trailer, you'll know that we're both brother-in-laws.
Unfortunately,
that's it.
My choice.
Well,
actually, it was my choice. It wasn't your choice.
Yeah, we won't discuss that anyway. But we're here. We have a bit of a rivalry, an FPL rivalry that goes on between us, and we're just back and forth all the time, aren't we, Dom?
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, this rivalry's been building a few years now. You're getting annoyingly good, and I think I've beaten you some seasons, you've beaten me some seasons, and this is, I thought it'd be something. We like to talk FPL, talk to each other, and it's really good.
Yeah, it's good idea. So I've been playing FPL. I was trying to work it out. I think this is my 5th year of FPL. So how long have you been playing FPL?
I think according to my history, I've done about 8 or 9 years, but I know at least for the first 4, it was kind of not really. I would always call it a casual, isn't it? When you kind of check your team once every few months and go, "Oh my goodness, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely been playing seriously, which is how you get good at it, isn't it? You invest time and effort and thoughts into it, and you start climbing up the rankings, and you get into it. And yeah, I've been doing that for at least 4 seasons now.
You seem to have sort of started getting more serious when I started to play, Dom.
Yeah, and it does definitely. That's the problem, and that's the essence of it, of FPL. It's your mini leagues, isn't it? It's beating your friends, beating your rivalries. It's not necessarily your overall rank. It's about beating the people that I'd much rather win a mini league than come in the top 1K. But although they do kind of come hand in hand, but yes, definitely. A rivalry has developed.
That's it. So that's our aim here, really, to be able to help people sort of gain, attraction in their FPL mini leagues by learning from what we do and our mistakes, because we're going to be making the same mistakes with you. We empathise with your pain. We have it's really raw to us. We are trying to make a raw podcast that is real and relatable here. Yeah,
that's it. I feel like it's less of a we are FPL experts, this is who you should buy, and then you buy that person and it goes wrong, and you're wondering why you're at 100 million rank. We're more of a listen to us if it's not going well, and if it is going well, hopefully it's not going better than how it's going for us.
That's it.
That's the thought.
And feel free to mock us as well. We're open to being mocked, because we know we're not really that good at it. So yeah, we're just along for the ride.
Definitely. So what have we got coming up on the podcast, Jordan?
Well, we've got a few different focus points to really go for. Maybe we'll call them that. So we'll be running through a number of different ones, and I think you'll find a few of them enjoyable. Some of them may be a bit unexpected. So maybe should we dive into our first one, which is our section Off Your Chest?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So Off Your Chest is the section where you want a little rant, you want to get it off your chest.
That's it.
So what were you thinking about for Off Your Chest, Jordan?
Yeah, well, I've been wanting to talk about Chelsea, because Chelsea have been, unpredictable. They promised so much at the beginning of the season. I mean, everyone was excited about all their new signings, and I don't think it's a secret really that everyone's been really, really kind of let down, maybe? Is that too strong of a word? Maybe. People wanted them to perform so much, and they've a lot of key players in lots of people's teams, and specifically mine as well. And we haven't got the results from that.
So who did you have in from Chelsea at the beginning of the season?
Well, I had Werner, and I'd banked really a lot on him a few games. I think I put a few captains on him, ready to go.
Yeah.
I thought West Brom was going to be the game. I thought that's it. We're going to get some points there. And then no, didn't really perform at all. Not what I expected.
Yeah. So we've just had game week 5, Jordan. So as a Werner owner, how did that go for you?
Well, I mean, it would be absolutely great if I was still a Werner owner. I actually took him out of my team. I lost the faith. I knew that when he was going to score, I knew that he was going to absolutely pounce and just go for it. But I lost the faith, and I was losing value on him. I had to get him out of my team, and I went at exactly the wrong point.
Yeah, well, he was dropping in value over the international break, so maybe you weren't completely stupid.
Yeah,
I'll give you that one. So, do you know who I had in my team from Chelsea at the beginning of the season?
Did you have Havertz?
No, I had no one.
You had no.
Because I feel like I dodged the bullet there, because there was so much hype over Chelsea, but it was going to take a long time for them to settle. I mean, this is Frank Lampard's 3rd season as a manager, and he's never managed big names. So it was going to be a big transition period, I thought. And I was wondering, is Lampard going to be the manager come the end of the season? And I'm still wondering that.
Here's a question, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't understand how, because everyone's thinking of those 4 kind of newish signings. So you got Werner up front, Pulisic on the left, Havertz in the middle, and Ziyech on the right. But I don't understand how they play together, because both Havertz and Ziyech both want to drift into the same space, in that right half space, kind of inside. And also Werner and Pulisic both want to pull left. And Pulisic and Werner played last night in the Champions League together, and Frank Lampard kept having to put Pulisic on the right wing so Werner could pull left. I think there's a lot of questions still to be answered on Chelsea. Even though they've managed to get some goals against Southampton, I still think they're at least a month or so off learning how to play together.
That's it. Yeah, I think everyone followed the money really early, and then have been sort of left wanting at this point. So it's something to keep an eye on to see how they progress, because there is definitely some movement there, but they're definitely got to gel a bit more, haven't they?
Yes, definitely.
So what about you? What have you got to get off your chest?
Well, I spent the international break really just trying to work out what was going on this season, because this has been a mad beginning of the season. There's been so many goals, so little clean sheets, and so many unpredictable thrashings. Spurs have hammered United and Southampton. Liverpool lost 7-2 to Aston Villa. And Leicester, they go and thrash City by putting, 4 or 5 past them, and then they lose 4-0 to West Ham the next week. I just couldn't get my head around it. Yeah. So I don't know if that's something you've noticed as well, Jordan.
Yeah, it's just so unpredictable. You could put in a load of players. I mean, even just like player choice, we'll go on to that later, but managers' players' choice has been unpredictable as well. You've been led down one garden path, and then it completely changes on you. So it's definitely something that has been turned topsy-turvy on its head. I saw a tweet the other day that someone said, has anyone tried turning the Premier League on again? So I think I agree with them on that one.
Definitely. Yeah, so I did some delving into the stats to try and work out what was going on. Basically,
are you appointing yourself as the stat man here, then, Dom?
I'm not going to, but I have stolen all of these from Fantasy Football Scout members area, and I've added them all together, basically the team stats, to work out what's going on for each for the equivalent part of the last 3 seasons, as in the first 5 game weeks. Mm-hmm. So, do you remember last season? Everyone was thinking, VAR, I need Milivojevic in my team.
Yeah, he was a key player. I had him in my team for a little while.
That's it. So we all thought that there was going to be loads of penalties, and there seemed to actually be less penalties at the beginning of the season. And that kind of VAR penalty bonanza has kind of come in a season late, if you reckon. Mm-hmm. So 3 seasons ago, in the first 5 game weeks, there were 7 penalties. The next season, 14 penalties. Last season, 9 penalties. Guess how many penalties have been scored already this season?
Cool. Oh, that's a good question. Is it about 10 already?
25 penalties.
What? That's insane, isn't it?
That is it. So and 4 penalties have been missed, which is So yes, 29 penalties have been given already this season in the first 5 game weeks, which is mad, especially considering there's actually 2 less games already this season because we had a blank in the first week.
Oh, that's true.
So that's one of the things that is mad. I think that will continue less as the as what you call them, the referees get together and realise, hang on, we've got to tone it down a bit. And I think they did talk about that over the international break, so I think that will tone down. But there definitely is more penalties this season, and penalty takers are becoming a real big selling factor.
So are you thinking that there's going to be a rule change, or you reckon the handball rules stay the same?
Well, everyone talks about the handball rules. There's only been a handful of penalties. We've seen an increase of what is that? Maths, come on, maths. 16 penalties. That is not 16 penalties have been because of the handball rule. So it seems to just be VAR. They're going to the screen. They're more likely to give it for now. And they're just trying to. I think they're just adapting to life with VAR. And it's last season there was not enough penalties, and this season there's too many penalties, and it might ease out a bit. But so the other thing is goals, Jordan. So over the last couple of seasons, there's been about 140 goals at this point in the season. This season, there's been 172, Jordan. So that is 30 more goals than the last couple of seasons.
It has seemed to be raining goals, hasn't it? I mean, it is enjoyable for the whole, playing FPL. I mean, my notifications come in, and you get that little bit of excitement each and every time, don't you? Is it someone on my team that's scored? But it definitely has seemed to be more prevalent this time. My phone's been going constantly all the time.
Yeah, that's it. So I did a bit of delving into the XG stats. So do you understand how XG works?
Well, I'm going to be honest. No. I
Okay.
see it around. Should I care about it, Dom?
It's a tool. It's something for you to consider. You don't have to care about it, Jordan. It's not that important.
All right.
But if you think about like a goal from the outside of the box, think of we had Lanzini's screamer on the weekend.
That was absolutely mental. Yeah, such a goal.
You can imagine the commentator. That's it. The commentator goes, "Oh, that's 1 in 100. That one." Well, they actually worked out of how many times if someone takes that shot with the ball of the trajectory on their strong foot or weak foot, how many times is that likely to go in? And so give that a representation as a chance out of 1, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you've got a penalty is always 0.76 XG. So that means 76 penalties out of 100 go in statistically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it works. So that gives you an indicator of if someone's overperforming their XG, they might be really good at finishing, or the goalkeeper they're shooting against is just rubbish, which is also a possibility. So if we have a look at the stats, the XG is actually down from last season ever so slightly.
All right.
So even though goals are sky high. So
they're not.
I've heard
they're not related they're not mutually exclusive. Then, well, no, they are. Yeah. They are exclusive, aren't they? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So we kind of think, why is this season so crazy? Oh, maybe they didn't have a pre-season, so they aren't defensively drilled. But actually, if you look at XG, the defenders are probably actually doing better than last year, and that there's kind of only one of 2 possibilities that there's so many goals going in. Either the strikers are just finishing a lot better than normal. Maybe without a crowd, it's easier to score. It's more like a training match. Or maybe the goalkeepers, which is a very mental position, are mentally fatigued and are conceding more goals than they would normally. It doesn't seem to be bad defending. It's more good shooting / bad goalkeeping, which has created about 30 extra goals than this point last season.
Wow, it's certainly something to see. I'm wondering if those poor goalkeepers on all of their money, the poor little tired goalkeepers, are going to continue to perform badly. We'll see. Pepper and seem to be some flashpoints at this moment in time.
Yeah, I'm glad I've got that off my chest. I promise I won't bore any more stats, but that helped me understand what is going on with this weird season.
Well, that is good. I'm glad we got that off our chest. I think that's probably going to be our longest segment each time, so that we can have a right little rant about it, and then we can move on to our next section. So, our next section.
What we should move on to now?
Well,
maybe a bit of a musical number.
Dom, you have asked a good question there. Our next section is "Don't Look Back in Anger." So, "Don't Look Back in Anger" is all about a review of our past few game weeks. I mean, we're at game week 5 at this point. We'll have a little review just to see what we think we've done wrong, where we could have improved, and maybe what we can learn from that going forward. So, Dom, what do you think you got wrong, and what could you have done better?
Yeah, you have to remember what you got right as well. And I feel like I got a few right, but something I got wrong was probably Trent. TAA, because we all thought he was essential at the beginning of the season, and now he looks useless, partially because of injuries to his team, but he just doesn't seem like the same player he was last season, and Robertson is outperforming him so much. So I don't know, is that something you've noticed?
Well, it's really weird because last season I was always a Robertson kind of guy. I was just always putting him into my team. Everyone was talking about Alexander-Arnold, and I was like, nah, he's Robertson. He brings in the assists and the goals. And then at the end of the season, I looked at it and I was like, oh, well, Trent's got more points. So this season I thought, that's it, I'm not going to make the mistake. I need to put Trent in. But that seems to have not worked at all for this season. He's not on his game at all, is he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, over the lockdown restart period, Robertson did have better stats, and so I was really tempted to go with just Robertson, but I didn't have the Nelly to go for it. So I'm regretting that I didn't go for it, because that would have freed up the money for me to possibly bring in someone like Son. Which would have been a big difference from the beginning. But you can't always think like that, Jordan, because I don't know. How would you, looking back in anger, or don't look back in anger, what would you say for your team?
So my one was Aubameyang. I've put my trust in Aubameyang, and well, I think I might still, but I think it's a bit misplaced, especially when you've got the likes of Son running about there. I put a lot of trust in him, put a lot of value into Aubameyang, and really haven't got much returns on him at this moment in time. So that is something that I'm hurting from. I'm hurting, Dom.
Yeah, he looked like such a good option at the beginning of the season. He was Golden Boot winner or contender for the last couple of seasons. Moved back into a midfielder position, even with a slight price hike, he was going to get great points. But so far this season, he hasn't. And there's so many great other options. He seems to be the only premium that's not banging it in every week.
Yeah.
So I feel
he's a bit of a scavenger for goals, isn't he? Really. So, and I think who he's placed with, he does well with Lacazette. They've got a good teamwork there, but I don't think there's been too many games that he's really been with Lacazette up front. So it's maybe he's just adjusting to a new way of things, really, new way of playing. We'll see. But the other one that I had a problem with was, we discussed him a little bit, was Werner. And I put my trust in Werner, but what passed me by as a result of that was Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Was it Levin or Lewin? I can never remember. Lewin, that's the one. So
yeah, you're thinking of an actor.
That's the one. Yeah. Okay. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he the spoils that are from him and the points that you can gain from him are never ending, it seems, and I have just let that pass me by completely.
Yeah, so that was someone I managed to get in from the beginning of the season. I'm really chuffed with that.
I think that brings it to an end for what we've looked back in anger there. Do you feel like you've learned from your mistakes?
Have I learned from my mistakes? Maybe if I could learn, would be go with my what I think as opposed to what everyone else is saying. Don't get scared by what everyone's saying on Twitter. If you've got reason behind your hunch, maybe go for it.
That's it. I think I'm not going to follow the money as much either. Look for those outliers and see what we've got going on there. See, I mean, that's really everyone's goal, isn't it? Find that person who starts performing and before everyone else. Get the hips to pick, as it were. That's it. Okay, so I think we'll move on to our next section. And our next section is Wife Watch.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this section because it's been quite incredible. It's amazing to see people that don't play FPL and just how amazing they can be at it if they don't know anything about football.
I mean, what did you expect when? Well, let's just explain what happened. For years, me and Dom have been playing against each other, and this year, Dom's wife, my sister, and my wife also decided to start playing FPL when we invited them to. So, now we've got a mini league going on, and both of them have taken a very different strategy of picking their players. So what did you expect when we first invited them along, Dom?
Well, Emily picked hers the night before the game, before the first game. She picked it based on players whose names she thought were funny, players like Snodgrass, Matsuaku, Zuma, players that she'd actually heard of. Daniel Rashford made it, of course. Yeah. We better know him as Marcus Rashford, right. But she's still doing all right with him off that. And also players that she thought were hot, and somehow that worked well for her because the Everton squad is actually a quite good-looking squad. And so she's tripled up on Everton, and she's doing captaining Calvert-Lewin a lot. And annoyingly, it's going quite well.
Look at that. That's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, I asked her who she considered a hot player, and she sent me a picture of, I can't remember which player it was, but fortunately he did look like you. So that would have been awkward if he didn't look like you, wouldn't it?
That is, well, I'm grateful for that. At least that small simmer.
There we are. And she is doing very well. I mean, I think she beat me this week, actually. Yeah, she beat me, which wasn't hard to do. I was taking an 8-point hit this week. But let's not take anything away from her achievement there. She has done very well. She's been charging ahead with Vardy. I think she's captained him at some points as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, that was fun. So she ended up with about 15 million in the bank after she first did her team because obviously she hadn't picked serious players. So for the first week, she listened to my advice and brought in Aguero, who promptly got injured. So for the second week, she listened to my advice and brought in Jesus, who promptly got injured. And she strangely wanted to captain Vardy against Manchester City. And of course, I told her, don't be so stupid and do that. And then he went and scored a hat-trick. So she promptly learned not to listen to my advice because she seems to think that I'm out to sabotage her when I wasn't really trying to. I mean, I might have to in the future. She's going to keep up how good this is. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. And she's had hauls from Zuma, from Matsuaku. Yeah, all these players you just wouldn't think, you wouldn't consider, and then suddenly you are having to consider them. With players like Matsuaku, who are actually reasonably good options all of a sudden.
Yeah.
How have you find Jade's been doing with?
Well, she took a different approach. So when I mentioned it to her, she said, I mean, when we set it up, Dom put the explicit rule that we weren't to help in any way. So I suggested. I didn't help, but I suggested that maybe Jade look up a few of those, a few websites, maybe a few videos to get an idea of how FPL works and what she can do. I made no suggestions on what websites and what videos. I just suggested that might be an idea. And
I think we might have to call the lawyers in for that one, but we'll decide that at a later date.
You can use that as an excuse later when you lose.
If she wins, the lawyers will be called in.
I look forward to that court case there. That's fighting talk, that is. Oh, look at that laddie. So when she actually went to pick her team, I mean, it was a few days before as well, but she selected based on a few websites that she looked up, and she'd really researched it, really went to town on researching it, and she got a decent team in the first week. She was I think she beat you first week, didn't she? Okay, yeah, I think that might have been the case. But she's got the likes of Rodriguez. She's got Werner, who she captained last week, so that went very well for her. And she's got a number of different players in her team that are continuing to do well. I'm just looking at who else has she got. Oh, So she did have Son in her team, but like many other people at the time, I told her that she needed to get rid of Son when he was injured, when we were all being told that Son was injured, and he was the most transferred out player out of the whole season, out of the whole that season for that week. And then he promptly went and did he score a hat trick that week? No, he didn't. He scored 2, I think. He got enough points hauled that it really was it was the death stroke for my advice to Jade. So she is using her websites to be able to strategize. I don't know whether she'll use this podcast. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. I don't know. Maybe.
It's like we said at the beginning of the podcast, we're not necessarily here to tell you which players to pick, because when we do that for our wives, it backfires.
Absolutely.
And they don't trust us. So we're just out here to offer a shoulder to cry on, some support, and if we can take the mick out of your team along the way.
That's it. Our wives stand as testament that you should not trust our advice in any way, in any part of life.
No, learn from our mistakes.
That's it. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that comes to the end of Wife Watch. We'll keep you up to date with all of their game weeks and how they go, and all the times that they beat us. I'm sure that we'll revel in highlighting that to each other.
Yeah, definitely. I think M's rank is definitely in the about or just inside the top million. So hopefully it will get worse, because I don't want to catch me out.
That's it. Well, we'll move on to our next section, which is called In the Sights. So all those transfer targets, those teams that you're targeting and keeping an eye on for the next few game weeks. What have you got for us, Dom? Who are you targeting?
Well, I feel like I have to bring in some Spurs coverage, and that's a horrible feeling to be chasing points, chasing coverage in FPL. But I don't understand what is going on with Spurs. Whenever I've watched them, they've been terrible. And yet they've scored the most goals in the league. And Son and Kane in particular are just absolutely on fire. And they have 3 great fixtures now coming up. They've got Burnley next, Brighton, and another good fixture after that. And I feel that I have to bring in at least one of them. And I've got to find a way to do that. Otherwise, I could be in big trouble come 3 weeks' time. Yeah, at the moment, I've been deciding between Kane and Son. Who should I target? Because I can really only afford one of them as opposed to getting in both, unless I did a wild card. But I think Kane actually is a bit better for the stats, even though he's a little bit more expensive. He might be a bit easier to get in for my team structure. So I'm thinking about getting rid of TAA, bringing in Kane, and maybe trying to even free up the funds for someone you're going to probably talk about next, because I like the look of him as well. So I'm glad you're going to talk about him. Who is this person that I'm?
Well, it could be one of 2 people, but I'm going to take a punt. Is it Grealish?
Oh, it was Max Kilman. No, I'm joking. Yes, you're right. It was.
There we go. Grealish. Well, that's my one. I'm kind of keeping an eye on all of Aston Villa, as many people will be keeping an eye on Aston Villa, because they're just they're performing far beyond anyone's expectations at this moment. They were fighting for the relegation battle last season, and now nearly they have a shot at getting top of the league next game. So we shall see what happens with that. But yeah, Grealish is definitely within my sights. He's just a man that seems to perform at different points. He's sort of key to that whole team, really, isn't he?
That's it. Yeah. So Villa are amazing. They're a team I wrote off at the beginning of the season. I thought they only stayed up because of that ghost goal where the goal line technology didn't work. If that had gone in, they would have been down. But they seem to have had such a good window. They brought in strengthened all their weaknesses, and have actually got quite a solid team. And Grealish, with great fixtures, he's actually right up there for chances created. I think he's made 9 big chances or chances created in the last couple of game weeks. Yes, they did play the minnows of Liverpool where they put 7 past them, so that skews
easy game.
But that's it. But he's up there with all the big premiums, the KDBs, the Salahs, and for 7.2 million he is currently, with that fixture run, which lasts until Boxing Day. I think you've got to definitely consider him or a cheaper alternative like Barkley to as a really good value option.
An absolute steal, as people would say. I'm glad you said about Barkley as well. Barkley seems like an option that I'm looking to as well. He's a bit of an underrated player, I would say. He keeps on getting pushed around in transfer markets, but he does bring something to a team, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think we've all been stung in the last couple of FPL seasons past, but when he was at Everton, he wasn't too bad. So maybe he's going to show us some of that form again. But I think Grealish is the talisman. He's something special in that team. So he's the one that I'd be looking at, trying to free up funds to bring in probably next week, if I can last that long.
Yeah, no, I think you can. I think you'll be all right. The other guy that I was going to target was also, as you said, Kilman from Wolves, and he's doing particularly well, isn't he? He's I think I saw a stat. I'm definitely not the stats man here. I haven't done my research fully, but I think I saw a stat on Twitter that said that he was the highest scoring player under 4.5. Is that right?
Yes, I saw that as well. So yeah, including all the 4.5s. That is because he got a clean sheet and an assist in the game. Was it night before last, and ended up picking up man of the match, much to Connor Cody, the captain's surprise on Sky Sports. If you saw that interview, it's become a meme of Connor Cody's very high Scouse voice. But yeah, he looks value. But the thing is he going to keep his place? Because Martial, is it Martial or Marcel? I think you say it. He came off the bench, and he seems to be the one who's going to go left wing, shoving Saiss into that left centre back position. So if you're bringing in Kilman, you're going to be really worried about him losing his place. But he's got 2 good fixtures coming up, so if he can keep his place for 2 weeks, he could have 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I bring him in, and the player that I'm planning to replace him for, I'm basically going to get 100% increase, even if he plays for a few minutes, because at the moment the player that I'm targeting to replace is Saliba. Is it Saliba from Arsenal, who seems so promising, and I think lots of Arsenal fans want to play. They want him to be tested out, just to see how good he is, because lots of people have been promised good things about him. Yeah, he hasn't been given the opportunity as of yet, so he's just been sat on my bench and losing more and more value. And he's basically the player that is leaking value from my team. So I need someone to plug that gap who's cheap and will fill what the need there, really.
I think Saliba's one for next season when David Luiz's contract ends. But I think, this season's come a bit too early for him.
We shall see. So I think that brings us to the end, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. That's the end, Jordan. I've really enjoyed talking about it.
I hope everyone else has enjoyed it as well, as much as possible, seeing being part of our conversation. Hopefully we haven't blabbered on for too long, and hopefully you can enjoy a few more of our podcasts as they come up. So we're planning maybe not to do every game week, but we'll see how it goes. We'll sort of start to get a schedule as time goes on. Yeah, hopefully we'll work out what we're going to be doing. We're learning very much as we go along. I'm wondering when I edit this podcast how much usable content we actually have, because we're going to be tripping and stumbling as we go along. So you might have heard a few inserts from me saying where I've had to edit and where we had some recording problems. So we'll see what we get at the end of this.
Yeah, and if you're listening back to this in 5 years' time, laughing at how bad our sound quality was and how we're sat in our small cupboards in our houses trying to do the best we can, with my wife walking up and down the stairs above the cupboard. Actually, I didn't think that through. Hello to the future.
You're hoping that someone else is actually watching listening to this in the future. It's probably just future you and future me listening back at this and reminiscing.
Probably.
So hello future us. Listener. So thank you very much for listening, if you have been listening, and well, be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up to date with all of our future episodes. We're slowly becoming more and more available on all of the different podcasting networks. We just before we started recording got notified that we were available on Google Podcasts. So that's a big win there. So yeah, keep a lookout. We'll be on all the different networks as time goes on. And also keep up to date with us on Twitter. We'll be posting on Twitter. What's our handle on Twitter, Dom?
Definitely, it's at FPL Passback. So yeah, definitely send us some mentions, some direct messages if you want to get any questions answered on the pod, or just to commiserate how bad your week is going. If it's going really well, we don't really want to hear from you because it'll be going better than our weeks. So if it's going well, keep it to yourself, I think is the general rule of thumb. But yes, definitely give us a follow on at FPL Passback, and we'll also definitely get a league code posted up on there so that people can start battling it out.
Well, let's just start beating us. We'll probably be at the bottom of it at the end of this season gone. So make sure we really want to do that, bring that upon ourselves.
Yeah, we'll be right at the back.
That's it. Yeah. I think that's a good point to end it. So thank you for joining us, and have a good rest of your week, I guess.